So turn off your television sets. Turn them off now. Turn them off right now. Turn them off and leave them off. Turn them off right in the middle of the sentence I'm speaking to you now. Turn them off.
Hey, thanks for joining us. We are shifting to more pleasing content. If you watched the recaps of Underground Railroad, thank you for taking a journey with us. I know it was hard, but now we're back to our wheelhouse, which is, the MCU shows. And we're here to, of course, talk about Loki.
Yes, we are talking about Loki, aren't we?
Yeah, and normally Courtney would be back with us, but she is away doing, summer vaccinated things, but she will be back for these recaps as well. I will probably leave because Dee and Courtney won't be able to contain themselves, and there won't be any purpose for me here. So
I mean, there's already no purpose for you, but you're right.
Well, thank you. So now we'll get into episode 1, which is called "Glorious Purpose," and no need to introduce my co-host Dee because you've already heard her. But Dee, how's it going?
Hey, I'm good. Thanks for asking. How are you, my friend?
I mean, feeling underappreciated, but other than that, I'm good.
Word.
So instead of doing like we did with the Underground Railroad recaps, we're going to get back to our typical style. And of course, the first question is general impressions about the show. What do you think about the first episode?
Okay, so I'm gonna just be honest. I went into the show knowing I was gonna love it because all of you know how I feel about Loki and Tom Hiddleston in general. So if I seem a bit biased throughout the series, that is why. I'm just being 100% honest. But I did really enjoy it. I mean, for it to be the first episode is what I expected. The backstory, give us a little bit of what's going on or what could be going on. But I liked it. What about you?
So if I'm forced to think about like criticisms with like the MCU universe, there's two things I could say. First is that I hate, and I said this on timeline and I got tore up for it, but I'm serious. Like most MCU movies look pretty bad, especially years after they come out, with the exception of Black Panther minus like the last, the final scene, with the exception of the Guardians movies. But most of them look pretty terrible. Why? Because they shoot them in a studio in Atlanta to churn them out in a set amount of time. So they all look like they were just made on an assembly line. Also, the second thing I would say about MCU stuff, and once again, I do like the MCU content, obviously, but the second negative thing I would say is that story-wise, if you remove the threads from the MCU, could the show or movie stand on its own 2 feet? Like, could this be like just an independent piece of work where like someone who has no knowledge can step in, and basically it's not just fan service? Most MCU shows and movies rely on that, because if you remove the connective tissue away from the MCU, like there's really not much story. It just serves the bigger story. With all that said, Loki addresses both of those issues because first, it is the best looking thing that's come out of Marvel, like ever, probably. Like aesthetically, like it looks really aesthetically, like it looks really good. Did you pick up on that? Like the visual, like just the visuals, like it looks really different. It, like, dare I say, it looks like a real TV show.
You know what I was looking at. You know exactly what I was looking at. So sure.
Also,
it was definitely aesthetically pleasing, though. Absolutely, 100%.
I'm talking about the show, not Tom Hiddleston. But
yeah, I see what you're saying. I mean, I enjoyed watching it. I like that it was like futuristic in a not over the top kind of way.
Mm-hmm.
But so yeah, I agree with you on the whole aesthetic part of it, outside of Tom, of course.
And the second thing, because this show really lives for like one purpose, and that is to correct like a major plot hole. But at the same time, like Loki isn't pulling from any like okay, of course, since Loki is a comic book character, there's going to be like comic book storylines, but there's no specific comic book storyline this show has to follow. It's not beholden to a certain story, which means what you're watching is pretty much an original story, which is like unheard of, like for a Marvel property. Like they got to like create a lot of things, original things with this. So with that said, watching this first episode, I'm like actually really excited about this show.
See, and you didn't want to watch it. Well, I don't say you didn't want to watch it. You were kind of like, I'll take it or leave it. Now, what is the plot hole that you are speaking of that they are correcting?
Oh yeah, so going back to Endgame, when Loki catches the Tesseract and he, of course, like steps out of that timeline. This is like 2012 Loki, not present day Loki, who is already dead. That clearly breaks the timeline. So he has a Tesseract, but Steve and Tony go back and get the same Tesseract and bring it to present day. So, and I will say this: I'm glad they found a way to fix this because it is perfect. But of course, we'll get into that. But the show opens with the after the events of the first Avengers movie. We when Loki is still the bad guy. No, excuse me. It ends with the events of Endgame. It takes, yeah, I'm getting them mixed up when Loki catches the.
You're right because it's still the events after the first Avengers because that Endgame goes back in time
right.
So it's the
so technically
from
it's
Endgame, but the time, yeah, you're right either way.
Yeah, so he catches. And so D, let me ask you this question: when you saw that watching Endgame, where do you think Loki went?
I have no idea what. I really didn't know what to think, to be honest, because technically Loki died, so the future wouldn't make sense because he doesn't exist in the future. So it really, I mean, it had to be the past, but I'm thinking maybe it was like before this stuff, before the events of that movie, so he can fix what happened. Like he can avoid his situation with Hulk. He can, like, whatever happened in New York, he can fix that because up until that point, he was still under the impression that he was a god and that he was perfect and he hadn't done anything wrong. It's just when he got caught. So this would be the one thing he would fix because Loki's very much a narcissist and he doesn't think he's done anything else before this that was bad or wrong or that he needed to correct. So this was his only, in his eyes, his only failure or, excuse me, experience. Because Thanos already tried it with him. But this was the only experience where he felt like he could have done something different, I guess. So if I had to guess, if you had asked me to guess where he went before I saw it, that would have been my guess, that he went right back to before New York.
Yeah, my guess is like he's just gonna get away from like
just away from everybody.
Yeah, from Thor, from the Avengers. And he's just gonna say, you know what, I'm gonna hang out for a while, which is absolutely what he did. He ended up in the Gobi Desert, and we are introduced to the TVA, which is really cool. But I'll talk.
Tennessee Valley Authority.
Yes, the Tennessee Valley Authority, but no, the time variant is the Time Variant Authority, which is really cool. So D, now that you have this explanation about where like Loki went, and now you know that there's, like, for lack of better words, a time police that polices this stuff. Like how like what do you think about that?
I think the time police would make, I mean, like you said, that the story is original. So in order to fix the plot hole, this is the way they've written it, I think is brilliant because they do so much with time with Doctor Strange and with everybody else that they're just kind of making you get rid of any theory or anything you can say as far as the plot hole goes, because now they're saying, look, Whatever happens, don't worry about it because we can fix it because we've got time police. And even the little clip about the Infinity Stones, about how they're worthless there. You can't say, oh, well, Thanos can blah, blah, blah. They're like, no. Now, look, whatever we write for you to see, that's what we meant. And if it doesn't make sense, don't worry about it because we've got the time police and they'll fix it. So that's what I think it really, like you said, it's a brilliant way to just let them write whatever they want. And then they get to say, oh, don't worry about it. TVA is going to take care of that part of it. It makes sense because TVA is going to fix it.
So some backstory about the TVA. They've never had like, as far as I know, they've never had like a dedicated comic. They've kind of been inserted in other comic book runs as a joke. Like you just be flipping through a page and you'd see like a TVA cop like appear and then arrest someone and then you would see them anymore. So it's kind of, like really they're kind of a joke. So Mobius, Mobius, B. Mobius, who is played by Owen Wilson, like he's actually a TVA agent. But interesting thing about his
name is Mobius, B. Mobius.
Yes, his name is Mobius B. Mobius. But here's the interesting thing. So, and I'm skipping ahead a little bit before we get back on track. But he mentions the null time zone, and once again, I know people are going to kill me for this, but I'm telling you, like, just like with WandaVision, they're setting it up. They're dropping the breadcrumbs now. But he mentions the null time zone in the comics. The TVA had someone else trapped in the null time zone during their comic book run. Do you know who it was?
Was it Loki?
Mm-mm.
Oh,
I remember I said they.
Oh, who?
Fantastic Four.
Oh. So is it like the Phantom Zone? If you got to do a comparison.
Actually,
or is it just like a whole?
Actually, no way. Let's get into the principle of the sacred timeline because that kind of goes into it. So, so for instance, there's one singular flow of time. And by the way, like speaking about time as my jam, so like there's one singular flow of time. So if someone does what Loki did, which is grab the Tesseract and jump out of that timeline, the TVA then arrest that person for breaking the flow of time. Because remember they mentioned that and I'm assuming these people were supposed to be like the celestial beings, and we'll get into that later. But like each celestial being, like they merged like these various timelines into one timeline, which is called the sacred timeline. The TVA protects that. So Loki broke that. He stepped outside that. They arrested him. But they also mentioned something, another thing called a Nexus event. And if you go back to WandaVision, Wanda Maximoff is a Nexus being. Now, let's say one of Maximoff's kids who are very much real, they are in another timeline now. Wanda hears their voice and she says, you know what? I'm going to go get them. What would a Nexus being going into another timeline create? A Nexus event, and it would break apart that sacred timeline. Does that make sense?
I would assume another Nexus event, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Because if anything can disturb it, it would have to be a Nexus being. And that's my thought. Okay. So they're all linking this together.
Yep. So that's why the TVA exists, to basically prevent that from happening. But since they were able to arrest Loki, they're like, hey, this is why we do this, because you really could have broke like the entire universe and split the timeline apart. So introducing this principle is actually like kind of cool. Like I really like that they're going in this direction.
Well, I like it anyway, just again, because I mean, what's not to like?
Yeah. So Loki is also shout out to Wumi Musako from Lovecraft Country. She is Hunter B. Is she B-52? I think B-56. Yeah. So yeah, she arrests him there, and it's a really like cheeky sequence because they're checking in. They're basically booking Loki, telling him about the TVA and everything they do. But when he's finally taken to Mobius, like that's to me the strength of the episode because you get to see Loki is faced with everything he's done. He's faced with the actions of New York, but most importantly, he gets to see what his future would have been if he stayed on that timeline. Like, so that's interesting.
The craziest part is like for me, I'm with you, and I really love the fact that they did that. They showed him all of these things that he's done, and you can tell very early that it is bravado. It is him. It's false security. It's the reason he has to keep saying, "I am a god. I am a god," because it's not about convincing everybody else. Really, it's making sure he keeps saying it to himself. And to remind him that he has a glorious purpose. And the best part is like, I think if nothing else, when they show his mother, the same as when they did in it was Thor when she died, when they had him locked in the thing, when he was pretending that he was all, standing around and it didn't mean anything. And Thor was like, dude, I know you stopped. And when he dropped the veil, you could see that he was miserable. And it's just a callback to that because when he saw his mother, and it's beautiful to me because it shows that he's capable of being good, I guess. He's capable of having love. He understands it. And we've seen it with Thor. We've seen it with Odin because he was just as sad when he saw Odin, go away. But his mother is really his moral compass. If he has one, she's it. And the fact that he was the cause of her death was too much for him, really. I really think that is the catapult that made him say, all right, look, okay, fine, because I can't be the reason she dies. And I've forgotten that he didn't know that. This Loki didn't know because, this is before it happened. So I really like that they showed it all. I mean, again, that they showed that they got all the way to Thanos, that he saw how Thor really feels about him. Because we always knew that Thor was sincere in how he felt about his brother. But I'm not sure Loki did, especially not this Loki. He had no idea because he's always been jealous of him. And it's good to see that he is, I can't say human because he's not human, but he's not. He has humanity inside of him. He has some something that can hold him accountable because Loki is a slippery booger. We know this. So any opportunity where he can turn it around and be something else, I hope they write that in there too. That he has to be reminded that, you're with us. You're not doing this for yourself. Because Loki, Thor's called him the worst brother ever, 15,000 times. So I hope they keep that true too.
Yeah, because I know like there are like 3 people out there who have seen the first 2 Thor movies. So just as a reminder, like I don't think a lot of people remember that Loki and Thor. No, but here's the thing. I will actually go to bat. I will go to bat for the Dark World, but that's a conversation for another day. But it's not as bad as people say it is. But anyway, a lot of people don't remember that Loki and Thor aren't blood brothers. Like Loki is an orphan. If I'm not mistaken, he's a shape-shifting ice demon in humanoid form. And Odin was like, wait, can I just kill this baby? And Loki's, Odin's wife was like, no, we should raise him. Why are you killing babies? But the fact that Odin basically sees he's the reason for his mother's death, he drops the bravado, like you said, because it's really just overcompensation. Like he knows he'll never be Thor. He'll never be the rightful heir to Asgard. And
he's
so
not the Odin son like he thought he was. He's just okay. I think too, people are taking away from the fact that I can understand how hurtful that is. Aside from him being a jackass in general, like I love him, but I'm also very honest about what he is. He's awful. Especially this version of Loki. This is before his redemption. He's still very awful, but it has to feel there has to be something inside of you that breaks a little when you realize that these people aren't really who they say they are. And that's not saying that they were wrong for not telling him or whatever else, because I don't think I would tell a child that I raised, oh, by the way, you're a demon. We're just raising you, but you were born a demon. But there has to be something said about the fact that you think you're something to these people, or you think you have a place here and you really don't. And I can imagine it makes you start to think, well, do y'all really love me like you say you do? Has anything y'all have told me been true? Does this mean anything? Because I'm not yours. I'm not yours. He's yours. Like Thor is yours. So anything that he's ever seen, any interaction that he's seen his parents have with Thor, he's going to internalize that and say, oh, okay, I always knew y'all liked him better because he's actually your child. And he went a little overboard with it, but I still think that you have to consider that that's where it came from. The fact that he doesn't know who he is.
Yeah, like, hey, I killed like thousands of people in New York and unleashed an alien army, but I was only doing it to try to like show my brother like how much I really love him, to like try to get his attention. So no big deal. Yeah.
There was the old man. But what did you think about the video? Did you think that the what they were showing him or what he saw, did you think that was beneficial, or did you think what is it, Mobius was just messing with him?
So a bit of both, because Loki isn't gonna change overnight. Like, he's a trickster by nature, but at the same time, like, you got him to admit that, hey, I'm full of crap. Let me drop this facade. So and like you said, we have to remember that this is still the 2012 Loki who just got out of New York, who's basically a big asshole,
who just killed Coulson.
Right. By the way, quick aside, it's kind of weird how the MCU pretends like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. just doesn't exist. Because that very much, if I'm not mistaken, that very much looks like Coulson's still dead.
Okay, so I just, believe it or not, which is great, wrapped up Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Like, I think I watched the last episode yesterday. So I just wrapped it up. And you're right. It's, I think at this time, right now, where Loki is, Coulson is still dead because it just happened.
But no, think about this though. I know it just happened, but this is the TVA. They knows what that because what they could have done has been like, hey, you thought you killed Coulson, but it turns out that really brought the Avengers together. Oh yeah, by the way, you did it for nothing because Coulson isn't even dead. They could have like done that. So
they could have.
I think they are.
So you think they're just disregarding Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. altogether?
Yeah, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. does not.
Do they do the same thing for Agent Carter? So I didn't watch Agent Carter. So
which is a shame because Agent Carter was actually like really, really good. It was like movie quality good. But yeah, nobody mentions Agent Carter, unfortunately. Like nobody. Yeah.
I don't know. I think, like you said, if you're gonna do it, then you got to kind of make it canon, because Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. references the MCU all the time.
But that's the thing. That's before the Marvel TV properties were under the umbrella of the MCU. Kevin Feige didn't have control of that yet. So pretty much he like doesn't acknowledge it. He doesn't acknowledge like any Marvel TV shows. That's why you'll likely, I don't know, you might see Daredevil, but you probably won't see the Defenders ever.
Interesting also, because I had no idea that was how you pronounce his name. So thank you.
Oh yeah. How you thought it was, like Paige?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, to call me out on the interwebs. We could have done this privately.
I'm pretty sure he gets that.
Like,
yeah,
I know how to say it.
Yeah, pretty sure. Yeah, I'm pretty sure he gets that a lot.
Yeah, I'm sure he does. That's what it looks like. Hooked on phonics work for me.
But D, did you also know that Loki was DP Cooper?
Okay, That was probably my favorite thing. Okay, because first of all, just a quick little aside. If you don't know who DB Cooper is, he is a real person who committed a real heist, and it was pretty much the way it went on the show. He hijacked was it a 747, a Boeing 747, and it may have been. I mean, if I'm wrong about the 747, that's fine. But he got the money, and he literally took the plane, jumped out of it, and nobody knows what happened to him. It's like the Zodiac killer of heists. Nobody knows. And I love the fact that they wrote that in there because it's not like anybody can say it's a lie. Like why wouldn't it be some mythical creature who pulled this fantastic heist off? Who knows?
Because when he was sitting there and he told the lady to read the note again, I was like, he is DP Cooper. Are you really?
It's like, I have a bomb. I have a bomb.
But no, I think that just speaks to the level of like playfulness this show has.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's like a higher level joke that's just the normal like MCU quip, that they throw out. Like that's really like a high level joke. And so I'm already liking this show because it does have like a better sense of humor, like a more niche sense of humor. Like, because I'm pretty sure there are some people who are watching this like I don't get it. But no, like I thought it was hilarious.
And the good thing is he said it. It's not like he just did it and then left it for the people who know the story to be like, oh my gosh, they're referencing DB. I mean, he said DB Cooper. So if you want to look and research it, you can. It's not like they're trying to say, oh, you're not smart enough, because some people couldn't give a flying flip about a heist that was successful that many years ago. But I'm with you. I really, really liked it. I laughed about it. Just like with Tony when he called Bucky the Manchurian Candidate, like stuff like that is just hilarious to me, because it's like, okay, it's a joke within a joke, but it's not a big deal. If you don't get it, it's fine. It's not like you're gonna miss out on anything, but if you do, it's just a nod.
So after that, Mobius pretty much says like, hey, you are a variant, but we could use your help, which I understand the reservations that the rest of the TVA has. Like, hey, can we really trust this guy?
No.
which is no, you can't. But
no.
So this, I will say this show did like most first episodes. It's setting up the plot, but I still find it very interesting because now Loki has to go through time. Like he has to go through time and correct like various variants, like he occurred. He has to correct them. Like I think that's cool.
Do you think though, because just for all intents and purposes, that's pretty much the episode. Except the fact that he did get away. And we said her name was was it 50? You said B-52, and I agree.
Yeah, but I think I'm conflating that with the group. I think it's Hunter B-56. Yeah.
Okay, so B-56 is hell bent on resetting him because all of her teams. She is a cop for all intents and purposes. She's a timeline cop, and her fellow colleagues or fellow cops are being murdered. So she is not trying to talk to Loki about anything that has anything to do with helping or whatever else. Because does she know that it's him that they're looking for?
I'm pretty sure she does.
So if she knows that you are the one, or a version of you is the one who's killing all of my friends, I wouldn't be interested in talking to him either. Because how do we know this isn't a part of the master plan? How do we know this isn't something that he has done to make things whatever it is? Because if he's a variant who's getting away with all of this, who knows what he can do? So I can understand why she's like, no, he needs to be reset. He needs to be reset now.
And but even that, like how, like if he's doing this in other, like, not, I won't say like other timelines, but if other versions of him are doing this, like, well, how can we trust this version?
Right. And how many versions are there?
Yeah.
They're like, we caught this variant, so let's get rid of that one at a time. But we can't she's never gonna trust him. I don't think. I mean, maybe she
No,
will,
no.
but I can't see her ever trusting him, and I can understand why she shouldn't, because he's already said he's a mischievous scamp. That's something that he has taken and is happy about. He likes that title, even outside of him trying to be the king or the god of everything. He's still very proud of his mischief. That's not something he's ashamed of at all. Like, he's
He
gonna be the god of mischief. That's just who he is.
he's basically like that Twitter video of that guy who ran across the street. He was like, "Hey man, I'm sorry," and then he hit the man in the head, and then the man got mad. It's like, "What would you do that for?" And then he apologized again. He was like, "Man, I'm sorry, man. I'm not on my mess." And he hit the man again, and then ran off. Like, that's basically Loki, because he's going to apologize and he's going to do the same thing he just apologized for.
Scorpion and the Frog once again.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's not gonna change, and even if he does good, he's still at his core, like you said, he's still the master of mischief or the god of mischief.
Mhm.
And that's not going to change. He may be able to use that to help, but it's not going to change who he is. He's very much going to use that, though. Like, the mischief is in him.
So I have another question, because the episode ends with TVA agents going to 1858 Oklahoma. Maybe they'll run into Cora, but but no, seriously.
So think about, like, what are we doing here? Are we merging?
Yeah, like,
tripping? Yeah.
I'm trying to keep all the content I consume separate, but it's running together. But they're basically ambushed and just watched by like this cloaked figure. Like, was that supposed to be Loki, or is that somebody else?
If it wasn't, then it's cheap. So it has to be him, because the way they set it up, it was Mobius told him, we're looking for a variant, and that variant is you. And then the next thing we see is this cloaked figure. So that has to be Loki.
See, okay, so here's the thing. And like, I'm not putting this out here as a theory or anything, but it was a cloaked figure, because I feel like if it was Loki, they would have showed like Loki's face. But here's the thing. I actually do think it's Loki, because in the comics, there are two other versions of Loki. One, which I think we'll get to later. Spoiler alert, as AJ has said, all of these shows are leading up to Young Avengers, so Kid Loki. But there is also a female Loki.
And I'm glad you said that. I actually read that, an article about it, that says that, and of course, doing it Pride, they wanted to make sure people knew, because people always try to use whatever they can for marketing. But they're saying that Loki is very much gender fluid, and I think that's not just sexuality. I think they mean literally,
right?
He can be whatever. And he has been whatever. So it won't just be that he is romantically linked to someone of the same sex or whatever else. It's just that Loki will identify as whatever Loki decides to identify at any given time, which is kind of cool, actually, to me. I think it's great. If he's a different version of himself in these timelines, I think that will be even surprising for him, the Loki that we know, to see that there is a female or girl or woman Loki, or that there is a teen Loki that wasn't him. You know what I mean? Like a version of him that's younger, but not the younger version that he remembers. So it's going to be interesting to see him, if he does. I don't know how they're going to do it, but if he interacts with these other versions of himself, I think it'd be nice to see how he handles it. Will he be disappointed? Will he be proud of them? Will he want to resort back to his old self to see what he can be? Will he be challenged by them because they're better? You really know. You never know with Loki. So I'm very happy to see that this is going to be a different place. I do wonder how much Mobius, I guess he's pretty much going to be his handler, maybe.
Yeah, he's gonna like try to keep him in check, but yeah.
It's so weird though, because I know that Loki is bad. Even this version of Loki is bad, but I still wanted him to get away. When they kept zapping him back, he was trying to run and they kept putting him back where he was. I wanted him to get away, and it's just because I guess I just don't like prisoners in general. which isn't bad. Like I want to say, I do understand that some people need to be like some people just don't need to be out here with the rest of us. I get that, but I wanted him free, and I know that's just personal bias because Loki especially is awful. But I'm very glad that they're doing this and that we get to see the show, and I'm interested to see how far it goes. Do you know how many episodes it's gonna be? Is it 10? 8?
Let me see. I feel like it might be 8. I feel like this will be a short run, but let me see if they got it online. No, I'm not seeing how many episodes it has. So it'll be interesting to see how many episodes this show has because I can't.
Looks like
Yeah.
6.
Oh, that would be perfect. Okay.
I'm okay with that. Yeah. I'm again in my old age. My attention span has gotten very short, and I'm
Mhm.
pretty sure it's because of. We'll start with the OG. I'm pretty sure it's because of Vine and now TikTok, and you get a lot of content
Yeah.
very quickly. So it's hard for me to sit through 3 hours and 18 episode seasons. I'm okay with short seasons because I feel like they give you story, so much less filler, and they just give you. They're still good, but they give you
Hmm.
what you need. So if it's 6, I think that'd be great because they'll just wrap it up in there and we'll be good. Um, but you were talking about Agents of Shield and how they're not a part of it. These are very much going to tie into the universe, right? That's the whole point.
Hmm.
This and
Yeah.
WandaVision and Captain
Hmm.
America and what was it? Winter Soldier. Winter Soldier. Was it Captain
So
America?
so
No, what was it? Falcon and the Winter Soldier.
mhm. So yeah, this is going to affect it in a number of different ways. Because I only know this character by name, so I won't even front like I know a lot about her. But the character who my bae Gugu is playing, her name is Ravonna, and Ravonna is directly linked to King the Conqueror, who Jonathan Majors is playing, which leads us to Fantastic Four, and also the
Is the
mention
is
of,
the Conqueror ever shirtless?
so as I was saying, it we have a mention of
Let me look him up.
we have a mention of Nexus here, which is going to create a multiverse, I believe. And then we have mention of these beings. So I think the Eternals are like pretty much like in place of like the Celestials here because they are the one. Because if you saw that trailer, they said they've been sitting back, helping like not helping humanity or anything, just staying out of the way. So I think they are directly responsible for these, diverging timelines. Like each one has like jurisdiction over diverging timeline. So I think all of this is interconnected somehow.
So you think this is gonna not only bring forth, like I just said, Young Avengers, but usher in the Eternal?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay. Because it's a movie, right? It's not a series. Eternals is a
Yeah, the
movie.
Eternals is a movie, and that's another one that's really like hard to think about because because the Eternals are like really like weird. There's not really like a lot of source material to draw from, so that's why I think this is like their purpose. Like basically that little cartoon that you saw in the show. I
Mhm.
think I think that's the Eternals.
Well, I will say this too: the staying close to the source material is great, and they should. But I like the fact that they're able, like you said, to kind of branch off and still create some original context or content within it.
Mhm.
Because if you've read the comics and you get to see it, that's fine, but you already know the stories. You never know if it's going to be exactly that. You get to know the story. So this is just a fun way for you not to know what's going to happen too.
Yeah, 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 and that's what excites me the most about the show because they are so it's almost like comics because characters are created and then somebody else says like, "Hey, I want to do something with these characters." So
Hmm.
now like the MCU, like they're bringing in pretty good writers and they're saying like, "Hey, we have these characters, not a lot of source material to draw from," and they're starting to create original stories from this. Like they're starting to create their own event series, like their own individual runs. It's starting to feel like on screen comics. So yeah, I'm very excited about like the prospects of Loki and what it could do because it doesn't have a lot it could draw from, but it still has a story it could tell.
I think it's going to end up being like, you know how everybody was doing that versus stuff at one point, like Usher versus Usher and that unnamed rapper versus his moniker. You know, it's going to be like Loki versus the God of
Yeah,
Mischief, Loki
yeah, yeah,
versus she Loki. What's the lady Loki? Is she just Loki too, or does she
yeah.
have a moniker?
I think she just addressed. Yeah, I think she's just
She just
addressed
Loki.
as Loki. Yeah.
Cool. I'm not mad at that. That's cool. Okay. Well, do you have anything that you're looking forward to other than just the greatness, like a character or a storyline or a plot? Do you think you know where it might be going outside of ushering in the Eternals?
I don't, and that's a good thing. I will say
Okay.
this: we have moved away from like the big unit of the MCU, and it seems like they're now saying like, "Hey, we're not building up to anything anymore. We're just going to tell these smaller stories," and that's
Mhm.
actually interesting because, um, it's cool to see Tom Hiddleston do this because I think he's been like underutilized the entire time in the MCU. So to see him like being able to be in the story and to like have an expansion of like Loki and tell a good story, that it's interesting. So I say all that to say like I don't know where it's going, but I I think it's cool. I think that's part of the cool part. And for this, like I know like what it's setting up, but I'm not going to worry so much about how we get there. So for this one, I'm actually going to like just switch my brain off and just enjoy the ride.
Me too. And the good thing, like you said, is that Tom does get to come back because he's dead. Loki's
Mhm.
gone, so there won't be Tom won't be here because even when they showed us the timeline, that was still very much there. His mom's death was very much there, and
Mhm.
Mobius was like, "No, you can't go fix it because that's what's supposed to happen."
Mhm.
So this is the way it's gonna go. Whatever y'all saw, however, the viewers, what we saw is the sacred timeline, and any one-offs from that is being corrected. So that's why you're here, and that's what you get to do. I wonder what they're gonna do with him though. This variance, like the what happens to the variance because she, B56, I think is what we're saying we've agreed on. She wants him
Yeah.
reset. So are they going to reset him when it's all said and done, or are they just gonna let him sit there and work for TVA?
So
She's
we so
B15,
now,
by the
now
way.
yeah, I was about to say now that I see it, she is B15. There was a
We
5 in there
sorry,
somewhere.
girl. We
Yeah,
sorry, girl.
yeah. But no, so obviously I don't think Loki is going to resist the temptation to go and try to fix things. Like
It's his
because
mama.
he has these TVA tools now. He can jump around. He's going to try to fix these things. So and of course B15 is going to want to reset him. But it's going to be interesting how they do that because like you said, it is going to be like a face to face with like a version of himself or their selves themselves. So yeah.
Themselves.
Yeah, so it's very interesting to see how that's going to play out.
Yeah. Well, I'm looking forward to it. I'm excited to get through it and see how it goes. And hopefully they'll exceed our expectations.
Yeah, I think so. I think this is like I said, this one has a different feel from the rest of them. So I feel like it's going to be good.
Yeah, we'll be here to talk about it, people. So stick with us.
Yeah, so just as usual, just let us know what you think. Let us know where you think the show is going, and we'll be back to we might go live, we might not, but we'll let you know. But
We'll
until
try.
next time.
Peace.
Peace.